All right, let's get to another big headline today. This infamous Mexican drug kingpin pleading guilty in a courtroom in Brooklyn, New York. We heard the AG on this, Ismael Mayo Zambada, now facing life in prison. Mayo. NewsNation's border correspondent Ali Bradley's covering it. Joins us now live from Del Rio, Texas. Ali.
Hey, Connell. So we're talking about one of the most prolific and notorious drug lords in the country, in the history of the country, and something really interesting, a turn of events here today with that guilty plea here. So let's walk you through this because cameras were not allowed in the courtroom here today when former Sinaloa cartel boss Ismael Mayo Zambada pled guilty in court to one of each of his two indictments. So the first one says he was part of a continuing criminal enterprise from 1989 to 2024. The second, from 2000 to 2012, that he led the Sinaloa cartel in racketeering. Prosecutors say that El Mayo ran the violent cartel with Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, ordering murders and torture while pushing tons of cocaine, heroin, meth, and marijuana into the United States for years. Today in court, El Mayo said, quote, "I recognize the great harm illegal drugs have done to the people in the United States and Mexico. I apologize for all of it, and I take responsibility for my actions." Zambada was arrested last summer in New Mexico alongside Joaquin Guzman Lopez. He's actually one of El Chapo's sons. It was an orchestrated plot getting Zambada to the U.S. on a private plane, and Zambada claimed he was ambushed and betrayed by associates who lured him onto that plane with that plan under false pretenses. Zambada pleading not guilty last year to drug, gun, and money laundering charges. A judge, though, setting this change of plea hearing just 2 weeks after prosecutors confirmed they would not be seeking the death penalty. That same judge sentenced El Chapo to life in prison in 2019. So we heard from Attorney General Pam Bondi, who just spoke about El Mayo's change in plea. She says he will also spend his life behind bars. Take a listen.
El Mayo will spend the rest of his life behind bars. He will die in a U.S. federal prison where he belongs. Today's conviction is the latest success in the United States fight against deadly cartels and transnational criminal organizations.
Okay, so we expect for the sentencing of El Mayo, Connell, to actually happen on January 13th. We do expect it to be life in prison, but he will also be on the hook to turn over $15 billion in assets to the U.S. government. So we'll see how they hold him to that and how that comes to play as well in January, Connell.
Wow, $15 billion. Okay, Ali, thank you. Ali Bradley, our border correspondent on the El Mayo story. Now, to Kilbar Abrego Garcia. You remember that name? The man reunited with his family just 3 days ago after being mistakenly deported to El Salvador, back in the news and back in federal custody with the Department of Homeland Security, saying that he's now being processed for the possibility of removal to Uganda. There's a hearing on this. Put this on hold for now. John Sandweg, the former ICE director, joins us. Uganda now. Explain the situation. I mean, people say, well, he's got no connection there, but I guess that's the whole point. Can't go to El Salvador, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. He can't be sent to El Salvador because he's his withholding of removal protection. That was the issue that started this in the first place. But this is a new thing the Trump administration has done, Connell, really prioritizing people who fall into this bucket, who can't be sent to their home country, finding third countries to send them to. Typically, most countries say we don't want these people back. It tends to be countries that are, generally poor, more vulnerable to pressure or incentives from the United States that agree to take these people back. I think that's why they selected Uganda. But of course, this also raises new issues. When Abrego Garcia was originally put through deportation proceedings, he had the ability to explain why he was scared of persecution in El Salvador. He had no reason to believe that Uganda was ever on the table. So what happened today was the court has issued a stay to allow him an opportunity to present why it is, deporting him to Uganda would violate his basic rights or, block U.S. treaty, violate the U.S. treaty against torture.
Senior Justice Department official just said something to the effect of this: he'll never be a Maryland man again. But what about that court challenge that, as you say, is still pending? I mean, how do you see it from his side?
Connell, it's going to be a long road for Abrego Garcia to successfully stay in the United States. There certainly is a chance. There's a chance he could be free again. This is a very complicated immigration case with lots of moving parts. But at the end of the day, Abrego Garcia was ordered deported. If the United States can find a country where they get sufficient assurances, where they can persuade both a federal judge and an immigration judge that, hey, he's not going to be, once he gets, like, for instance, with Uganda, one of the big concerns his team has is that once he lands in Uganda, they're just going to backdoor send him to El Salvador. If they can find a country, and apparently El Salvador is on the table, and this is kind of an interesting development, is Abrego Garcia identified as El Salvador as a country he would go to. If, for instance, El Salvador says they would take him, and if ICE was willing to relent and say, we'll send him to El Salvador, that's probably where this case ends, with a deportation to El Salvador.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.